Most men think accountability is a debate you can win with logic, but in the world of high level polarity, her accountability isn't something she gives you, it's something you command through your internal structure. If she isn't owning her energy, it's because she hasn't found a container worth respecting. I'm speaking with specifically to the men who are the titans in their professional lives, but are being dismantled in their private lives. Their KPIs are up to date, but they're using the business logic where everyone's responsible and trying to apply that to the relationships. And it's not going to work because she flows into her emotions and then you get frustrated. Today, we're looking at the physics of what actually happens in this. Later in the stream, I'm going to reveal what's called the silent correction. And it's a move that enforces accountability without a single argument. You don't have to put her into a corner, you don't have to back her against the wall, and you don't win it by logic. But first, we're going to have to look at why you need to be her, to be this logical, and how it's actually working against you. And it's the very thing that's making the chaos in your relationship. So we're going to dive into that. And then we're going to jump right into how you go about this. But before that, we're going to see why guys get into this in the first place. So welcome, this is the Dominance Academy. I'm your host, Mr. Justin. And we're going to talk about the accountability of women. And I hear a lot of this stuff online. I hear a lot of it where guys are talking about, when it's obvious they've done something wrong. It's obvious that they're at fault. And they still won't say, I'm sorry. They still won't say, yes, I've done something wrong. I apologize. I screwed up. And guys, we understand this. And perhaps it's because we're just raised in male culture in the sense where we know when we screw up, there's consequences to it. When we say we're going to do something and we don't do it, there's consequences. When we say we're going to do something and it gets done terribly, we know that there's consequences. And they will look at girls and say, well, they're not raised this way. They're not raised with this sense of needing to be aware of how you show up, because you're always great. There's always someone there to pick up the pieces, to make you feel good, to tell you you're cute, to tell you you're pretty, to tell you that everything's going to be okay. And guys in our upbringing look at that and go, yeah, that's not reality. That's not reality at all. And now they're looking at women who are involving themselves in the male space and wondering, well, if they're going to be out here in the male space behaving somewhat like men, well, then, and they want that responsibility, well, they're also going to have to carry the accountability that comes with being in charge or taking charge, even if it's of your own life. So we're going to look at that. But also from an interpersonal level of looking at why guys experience such difficulties when it comes to the girl in their life not having accountability. All right, so we got to wonder, well, what is it inside that when we're interacting with somebody that we are inspired to take on the accountability of our actions and admit our wrongdoings and take responsibility for our choices? There has to be some level of looking up to. There has to be some level of respect. And this is, I think, the major aspect where things fall flat. Because think about it. If you didn't respect your boss, if you didn't respect your teacher, if you didn't respect a mentor, if you didn't respect anybody, you would feel no need to take accountability. Respect is a necessary ingredient. Yeah? And so when you remove respect, there's no there's no draw, there's no pull towards remaining accountable. And so that just leads one to go down that conversational highway of saying, well, does your woman respect you? And of course, we would say, well, I hear guys say, well, it's because these women out here are behaving in such a way where they don't have to. They don't respect men anymore. This is a common statement. They don't respect men anymore. And I don't think that's a fair thing to say, right? Because before the women's lib movement, they had to respect men. They had no choice. They had no choice, whether it was real or fabricated. They at least had to behave as though they were respectful, because if they didn't, then they'd be out on the street. You wouldn't be, because there was no one working or anything like that. Well, the women weren't working, at least as wage earners. Okay. Perhaps like working on a farm, working with family or whatever, but that's different. So they're sitting there looking at girls today and saying, well, they're all messed up. They're messed up. They don't respect men anymore. Almost as if they want to give women a guilt trip and saying, there's something wrong with you. And I don't think there is anything wrong with women, because I think it's innate within us. If we have, I guess, a naturally healthy mind, that we're not screwed up in the head, we don't have like brain damage or, some sort of like mental illness, that we understand respect. I think we've all felt respect towards someone or something at some point in our lives. I think this is very natural. I think it's a natural human phenomenon to express and feel respect. And it's connected to an emotional state. Like, it's not just logical, because you could say you should respect the police in your neighborhood, and maybe you do, but only from a rational perspective. You don't actually feel the respect in your chest. So true respect also has an emotional component to it, doesn't it? It's something you feel as well as rationalize. And this is something that gets over on men. They don't understand this. I think they understand it from a structural, hierarchical pose, right? Like, you respect the judge in court, that sort of thing, because they're above you in terms of like state standards. Like, this person is on this part of society, this person is on another part of society. So I think we get that, and we show that rational level of respect. Okay, you don't know this person at all. You don't know the judge. So there's no like emotional component. But perhaps in your life, you've experienced that emotional component. I know I have. I've had a couple of teachers in my life that I've mentioned a number of times. Teachers that I truly respect, where I wanted to bend a knee to them. There was reverence. Like, I felt the presence, and they'll always have an effect in my life. It's been decades since I've interacted with them. That's respect. That's what happens when you have a feeling type of respect versus just a rational one. So the woman might even rationally believe, okay, I should respect men because they're a necessary part of society. They're great. They're skillful. They have these qualities, whatever. And so from a purely intellectual position, they can say, okay, I should respect men. But it doesn't drive them. It doesn't create an emotional pool. It doesn't create an emotional pooling effect. And this is where the problem lies, because one cannot just simply choose to respect, can they? If you don't respect somebody, you can't, even with like the best of your efforts, you can only go so far as a manufactured version of respect, where you're going through the motions. And this is what I think like a lot of women have learned to do, especially with this whole trad wife like trend that's going on now. This is weird, but The pendulum swings. It swings from here, and now it's swinging over to this whole trad wife thing. But this, I think, is really performance. It's a performative form of respect. So if you can only gather the manufactured performative type of respect, then how do you go about getting someone's emotional respect? That's really what the crux is, isn't it? How do we transform? How do I get that feeling that I've felt for other people, those teachers in my lives? Maybe you have people in your life where you really felt it inside of me, like, yeah, I would take a sword to the arm for this person. That's the respect, that's reverence. And so you say, how do I do this? And then you think, well, what did they do to inspire that feeling within me? What type of person were they? And I can look at my teachers, the people that, these guys that I have very high levels of respect for. And it's not due to position, right? Of course, they were my teachers. So from a hierarchy standpoint, I did respect them. But there's also an emotional aspect to it. And part of it has to do with, I wasn't just an underling. I wasn't just a student. I could tell that I was seen. I was seen by these individuals. I was seen by them, and the experience felt real. Sorry about that. The experience felt real. I felt very present, and I felt that they were very present with me. And so that increased my sense of experience of that person, of these teachers. And I'm thinking, well, are men doing this with their women? And I don't think so. They're not being the men that inspire that emotional level of respect. And then they wonder, why can't she be accountable, right? You need respect in order for accountability to exist. Unless it's by force, such as like with the police. When you've broken a law and a judge says, you're doing time for this, or you have to pay this fee or this fine. And you say, hey, judge, people of the court, I'm really sorry for what I did. It was a bad decision. I'm sorry. So yeah, you can be pushed to it by a certain structure, by authority, by force. But that's not the same. That's not real remorse. It's not real accountability. And maybe it is sometimes because they've been truly exposed. There's no way to hide it anymore. Gosh, I remember seeing this video, and there was this dude who had caught his wife cheating on him. And the camera was hidden in the living room. And he just kept bringing out evidence after evidence after evidence, and just really, like, her corner was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. She couldn't bullshit her way out of it. And she was up against the wall, not physically, but strategically, verbally. She had nowhere to go. There was no other excuses she could make, no other stories. It was plain as day. And he just kept at it. Very simple, like broken record sort of shit. And she broke down. She finally broke down, and she apologized. She was crying like a little kid who had been exposed. And I hear you guys, yeah, women are just children. All right, well, if you think they are, if you're not just criticizing them, if you think they are, then treat them that way. Then treat them like little kids. I know sometimes I treat myself like a little kid. And I mean, those for different reasons, but if that's really how you feel, then just treat them that way. But I think when guys are saying that, they don't want to. They don't, because that requires you to have responsibility. Even more responsibility. The younger they behave, the more responsibility you must take on. So But let's take a look at the girls, right? Because I think it's very apparent on this channel where I put a lot of stock in the behavior of men with regard to what kind of behavior that they receive from women. I think we all know that here. I think we all know that if you're a piece of shit, if you're a loser, if you have no sense of identity, if you can't lead, if you don't trust yourself, if you second guess, if you hem and haw, if you're scared, then she's going to mistreat you. She's not going to respect you. She's going to treat you like old gum that she stepped on and stuck to the bottom of her shoe. So we all know that. But as they say, it takes two to tango, right? So what is it inside someone that makes them not want to face a wrong that they've done? Well, typically it's our ego. Because when a situation like that happens, what's going on psychologically is that you're momentarily, your sense of self is being challenged because we have this belief of who we are to ourselves. And then when there's an event that happens that we screwed up and that turns back on us as a mirror and saying, you know what? Not only does it say you screwed up, but it also says you're not as great as you think you are. In this moment, you were an idiot. In this moment, you were unskilled. In this moment, you were a jerk, whatever it is. And so, but why is this especially unique for girls? Because that's a phenomenon for everybody, right? Everybody experiences that because everyone has an ego. But why is it especially different for girls? And this has to do with what I was talking about before, what I mentioned in a number of videos, where I believe that girls have an innate sense of self-doubt that's different than the self-doubt that guys have. I think it's an energetic thing. This is, of course, nothing that I can prove, but because we're going into like metaphysics, Taoist ideas, like, new age mumbo jumbo, but it's something that I instinctually understand. It's something about men being form and women being void and how they work together synergistically in that way. And so being void, there's an emptiness. There's a sense of non-completion of self that requires something to go inside, like the I guess you would call it the negative cutout of a puzzle piece. Yeah. And so, and there's nothing wrong with that because that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Right? You don't look at that puzzle piece with the piece going inward instead of outward and going, oh, this piece is broken, it's fucked up. And no, it's not. That's just how it is. And then the other piece has something sticking out. It doesn't say, well, that's better. No, it's just that's how that is. It's just the way things are. Okay, just plainly and objectively. So with that, I think comes with this very subtle internal self-doubt that just lingers there throughout the entire existence. And it's certainly psychological. It's certainly connected to physiology, because women have like this space inside them that is biologically designed, if we want to say, to carry something, for something to go inside and grow. All right. But I think on like a metaphysical level, a spiritual level, an energetic level, there is this emptiness. And this is not a bad thing, right? Because we need that there. We need formlessness and form. We need darkness and we need light. We need the heavens. We need the earth. We need this duality as part of our existence. So again, it's nothing bad. But I think it does lead to someone having that like a low level, like a simmer of insecurity that I don't think is there quite in the same way as it is with men. I don't think it runs that deep into our core. We might have insecurities about surface level things, skills, our language, our achievements, how strong we are, how competent we are, that sort of stuff, external things that we may have doubts over. But internally, I don't think there's that low level current of self doubt, insecurity. So, not, and if it's there, I don't think it's in the same way. I don't think the current is really at the same level, the same way that it does with a woman. So, with that there, now you've got their actions, thoughts and actions all going out into the world, interacting with people, the world around them. And inevitably, they're going to fuck up. Everybody fucks up in life. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody's been a jerk to somebody at least once. And so because of that low level frequency of insecurity, when it's brought to them that they've fucked up, that they've made a major mistake, there's a major resistance to that. Because if it's brought in, you have like what's going on with that woman in the video that I saw. She collapsed. Like she physically and emotionally and psychologically collapsed. Like a Jenga tower. Everything collapsed. And I think it's for that reason. I think they're from an emotional level. I think girls understand this about themselves. So there's an emotional resistance to prevent that Jenga tower from collapsing. And so when guys come to them and they've got a very reasonable thing brought into their laps and saying, listen, you said this thing or you did this thing, it's really messed up, or this hurt my feelings, or you fucking broke my car because you did XYZ or whatever. Taking that and owning it and saying, you know what? I messed up. I'm really sorry. I see that pisses you off. I see that hurts your feelings. I see that really frustrates you or causes this other thing to happen. I'm really sorry. How can I make that up to you? Or let me make it up to you. They have an aversion to this. Okay. But not all is lost. Not all is lost. Because what allows them to come into a space of feeling okay to do this, because this is certainly not every woman, they have to feel that it's okay to let down that ego guard into that soft undercurrent that I was talking about and allow that to be exposed such that they can open up and be vulnerable and say, hey, you know what, I screwed up. And allow their ego to take that shot. The only way that's possible is if that respect is there, if they feel safe by your container. That's how that's going to happen. Sorry about that. So yes, naturally, girls are just not going to do this unless they've done some sort of internal training, internal development where they're like, you know what? I know how to handle my ego. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of that ding. I'm not afraid of taking it on the chin. And this is a very rare scenario, a very rare instance. For the most part, they're going to skirt around this. So there are ways to prevent this. One, like I said, you have to be that guy that she respects. If she does not respect you, you will never get an apology because she doesn't look up to you. She either looks across to you or she looks down at you. You're never going to get an apology, or very, very rarely. Okay. And similarly, just on the flip side, guys, if you're apologizing too much, that's just as bad. It's just as frustrating, but the other side of the coin, it's just terrible. It looks bad. It sounds bad. And the funny thing is that a lot of people don't even realize that they're doing it because they apologize so much. And this is a terrible downfall. I remember when I was a junior or senior year in college, I spent 6 months in Italy. And there was this girl there. I forgot her name. She was kind of big. Right? She was big for her, like for a girl. I mean, she was tall, um, and she was wide. She was just overall a very large person. I know she was insecure about this, but she was like part of a friend group and stuff that we had formed there. And because all these different schools were there, plus locals. So I got to know a bunch of people, and occasionally like these friend groups come and go, whatever. So we had out to lunch or whatever, and I remember she was sitting next to me, and her foot bumped into mine. Phoenix. One second. Yeah, so my foot bumped her foot under the table, and she apologized immediately. It was like any graze. We were walking down the street, her elbow would graze my elbow. Sorry. Oh, sorry, Justin. Sorry. Constantly, or because of that insecurity, but also the more higher levels insecurity of her being big and not feeling, really comfortable with that. And there's guys who do this. Like you walk on eggshells around your girl. And anything that you might have done, you're so ready to jump to it and be, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like constantly. Okay. And this drives down respect. This really drives down respect. I mean, at the very least, clean up your language and save the sorries for the times that it really matters. Otherwise, just say, I apologize. Or just don't say anything at all. I'd rather you be a jerk. I'd rather you be a jerk that doesn't apologize at all than a wet noodle who apologizes for everything. Yeah, it's terrible. Or so ready to apologize, so quick to apologize. That shouldn't be happening. So maybe if you tried to be a jerk a little bit, you just apologize less. But that's how a lot of guys get in trouble. So so like I said, to kind of prevent this from happening, right, or to that inspire the accountability and taking responsibility for words and actions, she has to respect you first. And this comes down to your behavior. I mean, of course, there's always compatibility issues and things of that nature where she's just not that into you. There's not that like a great level of compatibility. It's not that she's disrespectful. It's just the two of you don't create that paradigm. And that's okay. But still, you should just leave. Like there's no sense in like trying to work it out. Like especially if you've been at it for a little while, don't try to work it out. That's just pathetic. Understands when the writing's on the wall that you should just pick up your shit, accept that situation is fucked, and move on. Realize that you can't push things further. You're not going to be able to change her mind. It's very difficult to go from someone you don't respect into someone that you respect. It's a very, very rare occurrence. And of course, guys with their messed up brains and their attachment and their neediness, they're going to go, well, I'll make her. I love her so much that like I'm going to stick this out. No, you don't love her. You're just needy. Love is actually very, very relaxed. Domination is actually very, very relaxed because there's a lot of stillness involved with this. When things are complete, they're still. When they're incomplete, they're scattered. They're active. So let's say you don't have that, you don't have her reverence. You don't have her devotion. What else can you do? So at the beginning, I mentioned the silent correction. And what the silent correction is the use of 3 very simple skills. All right. Now, the first one is pretty obvious. It's what a lot of guys do. But what you should do more and keep it a sharpened tool on your belt at all times. And that's the withdrawal of attention. So instead of using like dominant words or arguing logic, you remove the audience that she requires for her lack of accountability. You go silent and return to your own center. So just don't pay attention. Go into another room. Like if she wants to like kind of hash things out or whatever, just say, listen, we're not doing this right now. And you just go off and do something else. She keeps following, just leave. I say, I'm going to leave for an hour. And then after an hour, come back. Don't answer your phone. Don't do any of that shit. Okay. Withdraw your attention. Right. And then you remove the audience she requires for her lack of accountability, because it is a bit of a performance. Because underneath, when somebody knows that they've screwed up, they know. Everybody knows. Like, you know, when you've screwed up and you're trying to hide it, you're trying to like cover it with dialogue or whatever, you know. And so that stuff that's covering it up is a performance. You're putting on a little performance to try to distract from the idea or hide that you've done something. I didn't steal a cookie from the cookie jar. No, these aren't crumbs. No, that's just, part of my face. So the first part of silent correction is withdrawing your attention. A really, really powerful tool. It's very simple. The only thing you need to exercise this is emotional control. That's it. Don't get fired up. Which goes into the next one, which is the unshakable frame. So what this means is that you refuse to be moved by her emotional storm by staying calm and focus on your own purpose, right? Which is more so your sovereign state, right? Purpose is not something you do. It's something that you are. So here I'm referring to purpose as the sovereign state of being. So you stay calm and focused on your sovereign state, and you create a vacuum that she eventually has to fill with her own accountability. So you don't get pulled into her emotional storms. You don't react emotionally or verbally to how she's coming at you. This is absolutely the one of the strongest things that you can do. Do not react. Stay calm. Stay non-reactive. Okay? Because it tells their subconscious that what they're doing is giving rise to your reactions. So it's really, really important to maintain that solid sovereign frame. Okay? Call it what you want, but it's just the headspace. It's the headspace of immovability, but not through resistance. Okay? What you're resisting, actually, is not her. What you're resisting is not her. What you're resisting is your own impulse to engage emotionally. That's what you're resisting. So you're resisting yourself. And in doing that, what you're doing is you're training your nervous system. You're training your nervous system to respond in a different way. I've got a little story about this after. Now, the third one here is 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 a bit different. But the third part of this is holding the space. So you're not punishing her with the silent treatment. You're simply refusing to participate in a low level dynamic. And this forces her to self correct because she realizes her chaos no longer has an effect on your state. And so you're not trying to stonewall. All right. You're not trying to stonewall. You're not trying to pull the silent treatment. Okay. And you can even say this. Like you can even say, no, I'm not giving you the silent treatment. I'm just refusing to engage on this level with this type of communication. And then you can even put like encapsulating it, which is a fairly dominant thing to do. And you say, listen, if you'd like to continue talking about this when you're more calm, we can put a pin in it right now. And that it's sort of like the kid thing when you give them choices, but you don't give them choices. So you're giving them this choice, like basically saying, like, listen, I am willing to talk to you, and you have control over when we do that. It's not going to happen now in this state. So if it's happening now, you need to calm down. If you can't calm down, you can choose to have it later. And this is what allows them to feel like they've got some control in the situation. Right. And, like I said, it's the sort of thing that you do with kids. Like you don't ask them, do they want vegetables with their dinner? You say, do you want carrots or broccoli? So it's the same sort of thing. So they're like, oh, I want carrots. And then that gives them a sense of that they chose, they have they have autonomy, they have control in that situation, but it's within limited parameters. So in the same way, say, listen, we can either not talk now, we can talk now, but you have to change how you're talking, or we can talk later in a different state. And so you give that choice, but within those parameters. And so this is how you are able to control situations, even when she's not in a state of reverence. Because if she is, you're not going to be getting into this shit to begin with. You're not even going to have the clashes that will require her to face her accountability. It's just not going to happen. Because there's, along with respect, a lot of times, like when you respect somebody, part of you wants their acceptance. You want them to recognize you and accept you. And for someone, aka girls, who are walking around with a higher level of wanting acceptance, of wanting to feel good enough, of wanting to feel special by someone, especially somebody that she's like attracted to, but she loves, that feeling is going to be even greater. It's going to be really, really large in her, where she's going to, that feeling of wanting to prove oneself, wanting to, or not feeling good enough pretty much all the time. That's what happens when she's got that high love and that high level of respect. And so these things just don't come up. But if you don't have that, these are the tips that you can use. All right. And they will still kind of give you the tools that you could otherwise exercise without doing anything if you were that sovereign man that she respects. And that's the withdrawing of attention, the unshakable frame, and holding space. Those three things. Okay. Now, I was talking with a friend of mine, a fellow Dom, and we were talking about making content and things like that. And I was impressed by the content that he was making, because he's able to relate with people and relate with their pain. And I think that's because he recently like processed a certain something in his life that was quite difficult. And so his content is really taking off in terms of views. He still has like very low level followers, but the views are through the roof. And he's also designing things very well. Okay. So I was just very impressed by his designing and the way he was talking to people. And this is, it was just very impressive. And I was talking to him and I said, I have some difficulty sometimes because it's been a very, very long time since I've felt anything that most guys are going through. So it's really hard for me to relate. And I don't say this from like a polishing my own nails sort of thing. It's just a reality of the matter. I'm I'm unfamiliar with the feelings. I can logically talk about them. I can discuss these things. I can help people through whatever they're dealing with, but I can't sympathize because my body has forgotten those feelings. My body has forgotten anxiety. It doesn't even remember what it was like. My mind has forgotten mental clutter. I've forgotten what tension feels like. So I was just discussing with him, that just the differences between us, my own challenges in making content and things of that nature. And, almost kind of feeling alone in this, right? And then I spoke with a client of mine who's doing really well. He has made tremendous progress over the last few months, gone through a lot of his own shit, and he works really hard on his own. So there's a difference between the student who works hard and pays attention in the moment of the meeting. And then there's the student who does that, plus they make time outside of our meetings to do more work on themselves. There's those two types of people. Those who only work during class and those who work during class as well as their free time. I mean, not in their whole free time, but they take some of their free time to also dedicate towards their learning. And so he's done this and he's taking off like a freight train. He's taking his own personal development with his issues, his darkness, his attachments, the sadness and anger that he was carrying with him. He took it very, very seriously. And because of his development, he has my respect. I absolutely respect his effort and the man he's becoming. He's no longer the child has become quiet. And not through a clamping of the mouth, but through caring, helping it understand, like the child inside him, helping it understand that the things that happened weren't his fault, that really had nothing to do with him, and that that's going to be okay. And he kept this going, and it became more integrated. The child, the darkness, all of this stuff started to integrate. And he noticed that things really started to just cool out. He started to cool out, meaning like the stillness started to kind of cast over him. His girlfriend, stillness started to cast over her. She was less erratic. She's become less stressed. She's become less anxiety prone. And then for his relationship also, as an extension of him, as she is an extension of him, everything started to settle down. Everything began to feel more calm. And we're talking, and he said, I'm in this place now, but I kind of don't know what to do with myself. I said, yeah, welcome to peace. Welcome to peace. That's what it's like. And it only feels funny. There's kind of like an itch of anxiety because, and I told him, your nervous system has had a couple decades or 3 decades worth of training of dealing with stuff in a certain way, from a particular angle, from a particular state of being. And now that's all changed, and you kind of don't know how to, because those methods of dealing with reality were just no longer suitable. So he got rid of them, and now he's like, well, that's all I knew. So, I kind of do the things that you tell me, and I exercise those things, but now I'm just kind of at this blank slate where I've created a lot of peace and harmony within myself and within my woman and in my relationship. Now what do I do? Like, yeah. And he realized like he can't really talk to anybody about it. Like I'm literally the only person in his life that he can talk to about this stuff because every male he knows is in that other life where they're dealing with drama, they're dealing with tension, they're dealing with arguments, they're dealing with stress. And he's looking at his girl and she's becoming more and more fluid. She's becoming looser. She's becoming more pliable, more compliant, more relaxed, less stressed, and less anxiety prone. And he's like, basically at this point, because she trusts me so much, because I've developed myself in such a way that I can be trustworthy, my respect has gone up. And now I can basically do whatever I want. And I said, yeah, welcome to freedom. He's like, if I tell her to do anything, she's going to trust me and just do it. And likely, I don't know if she's going to do this or not, but I'm guessing with a smile on her face. Not meaning like not reluctantly. And that's the thing. When your system and the one who's driving the system becomes settled, everything kind of like locks in. Okay. But not through force, just through a gentle locking in. Everything just kind of slows down. There's no rush. There's no like nervous energy. None of that shit. And you kind of have to, create the tensions. And I said to him, that's where BDSM really excels. Because at that point, you have so many creative opportunities, so many, I would say probably countless avenues by which you can create drama. Right? Because of course, like his friends are like, man, you got to like give your woman drama. You got to like create these things to give her drama so she stays engaged. Because also guys will say, hey, if you're too relaxed, if you're too normal, if you're too together, like she's just gonna start talking to Chad in accounting and suck his dick in the break room. So you better give her some shit to like, increase her, anxiety or whatever. And here's the thing, and I told this to him as well. When you're a man who's like about your own system, and you are on your purpose in the sense of you are in a sovereign state. Sovereign meaning how you feel about yourself is not answering to any sort of external authority. That's what sovereign means. Then that alone becomes the thing that commands. That alone becomes the thing that commands her a bit of her fear, because she can look at that and want to be part of it. If she's attracted to you and all that stuff, like the attraction is there and she wants to be a part of your life. She's interested in spending time with you, being your girl or remaining your girl. It's having that creates a smooth foundation, a baseline of her feeling of there's this guy, there's this thing that he has going on, this little world of his that I feel that I need to measure into. And I want his approval. So you don't like, if you don't have anything at all, like you don't have any program, you don't practice BDSM, if you have that alone, that will maintain that level of like needing to be sharp, keeping her on her toes, as it were. Okay. But The one guy who said that they need variety, he's not incorrect. Okay. But here's the thing and why one of the reasons why I like BDSM so much is because of all those avenues to create like a manufactured drama, but not necessarily drama, just intense feelings. Because that's what drama is. That's like the whole point for drama. It's not like people sit down and they enjoy watching people argue, like on TV, like a television show where people are arguing. Okay. It's not like you've got, maybe some people have a fetish for that. I don't know. But what they're really after is intense emotions. That's what they're after. They're after those very punchy feelings that perhaps make them feel, I don't know, more alive. And that's what they're after. So if that's the case, I can create that in a multitude of ways. There's so many ways within BDSM with knowledge of, their interests, their kinks, their pain points, their goals, their desires, what turns them on, this, that. There's so many levers that get exposed. That's part of the reason why I like this lifestyle so much. Because you can create the intense feelings that replace the draw to drama. And then you become the drama. Your situation becomes the drama. Oh no, I've done bad in Daddy's eyes. And she knows there's going to be some sort of consequence for this. And it can be just something so simple based on the structure of your system. So let's say every day her job is to collect the mail. And then one day she doesn't collect the mail. And you look out there and you see that little red flag sticking up on your mailbox. You're like, You walk out there. Oh, there's mail still in here. So it's not like she grabbed it and forgot to put the flag down. Okay, it has to be dealt with. And then you leave the mail somewhere where she can see it. And she comes in from wherever, maybe her jog in the neighborhood, and she sees the mail. You don't have to say anything. Maybe you're not even in the room. And you just leave the mail sitting there on the floor. And she's like, oh, fuck. I'm going to get it. Somehow, I'm going to get it. And you could even do something as subtle as not doing anything at all. And she's just waiting and waiting and waiting. You could go on for like a week and you've not done anything. You never even brought it up. And she's sitting there with this like a tick in her brain, just like biting at the back of her mind. Like, I know he's going to. I know he's going to say something. I know he's going to do something. He's going to correct this. And that alone is the torture in itself. Because she's just waiting for you to step forward, give her a spanking, give her chores to do, whatever it is that you have got going on in your situation. But that's what I mean. When there is the power differential, when there's respect, you can create anything you want. And that's what I was telling my student. I was like, yeah, you can literally create anything you want. So, because he was wondering, where do I go from here? Like he's basically like wiping the chalkboard clean. Like there's still some marks on it and stuff, but because like he's not all the way over, but he's getting to the point where the chalkboard is mostly clean rather than cluttered. And he's already thinking, well, what do I do? Where do I go from here? I said, well, now is your time to put on your director's hat, in your little folding canvas chair and your megaphone. And now you have to sit there and decide. So you're the director and you're the scriptwriter. And you now decide what it is that you want to do. But not just out of pure desire. Surely there can be some things that you just want to do and create purely based on desire. But it also has to have a reason why. And now, in the position that he's in, he can think more clearly. And why can he think more clearly? Because he released his grip on sexual performance, on being a good lover, okay? He dropped that. It doesn't mean he becomes a shitty lover, but he drops this idea that he must be or else. So he got rid of that. He released his grip on it. He's also gained more steadiness with his emotions. He's not easily triggered anymore. No matter the emotion, whether it's joy or anger, he's just not tossed in any direction quite as easily as he was before. And then his lust. His lust has also come under control. So when you have those things, it opens up a lot of space. Okay, you take those things, you sit them down, put leashes around their neck, and tie them to a stake. So they've not been disbanded, they're just obedient. And it opens up a lot of space. And he's like, well, what do I do? I said, okay, now you can really plan. Because the thing is that a lot of guys, they will try to create a system, make a woman accountable, but their motivation is fear. Their motivation is get back. Their motivation is revenge seeking. Like I've mentioned before, with, I've heard guys saying, well, my girl, she's not allowed to go out without me. She's not allowed to have girls' nights, not allowed to have girls' trips. She's not allowed to do anything unless it's by my side. Or she's with like a family member or something. And then when they explain the reasoning, they say, well, this is for her personal safety. As if like we live in a war zone. Now I can understand that if that's a rule of yours, if you lived in like downtown Chicago, or if you lived in like Compton, or wherever there's like a lot of violent crime, I would say that makes sense. But most people aren't living in these areas. Sure, they're densely populated, but that's a small percentage of all the people in the US. For the most part, we don't live in war zones. This isn't like Afghanistan or something. Okay? So the real reason is fear. That's what it is. He doesn't want a protection. Oh, I'm so scared my girl's going to get taken away or punched in the face. No, that's not it at all. What it is he's afraid of, guys who say this, they're afraid of some other man's dick getting near or going inside his girl, or her wanting some other guy's dick. That's what it is. It's purely fear-based. And so if you have fear in you, if you have that kind of attachment going on, then what's going to happen is that if you do create some sort of system, you start creating rules, you make structure and things like that, it's all going to be modified by those things. It's going to be modified by those feelings. It's going to be modified by those attachments. And therefore, everything that you make off of that, the structure, the program, your rules, what have you, it's going to be tainted. It's going to be contaminated by this disease of fear, this disease of attachment, and sometimes anger, rage, pain. It all gets modified. But when you work through those things, which can take months of continuous training, now everything's cleaned up. So your structure can exist cleanly. It's not modified by these fears. It's not modified by your attachment. It then becomes an extension of your will. It becomes an extension of your principles. It becomes an extension of your codes. And so you start living from a very high level. And you're holding her to a standard from the position of that system, not your emotions, not your fear of getting hurt. So this is a big difference. So there's those two people as well. Those who manage out of fear and those who manage out of principle. And trust and believe those people who run things out of fear, they're not saying, I'm doing this because I'm scared. No, that's too honest. They'll say, I would honor that even more if they were to say that. But what do you get instead? You get lies. They say, well, I'm doing this because my principles. But if you're really honest with yourself, if those guys were really honest with themselves, they would realize and understand that they're doing this to protect their feelings, to protect that little injured boy inside that, mommy abused or mommy didn't pay attention to, that mommy neglected. That's what's really happening. And this is the reason why a lot of men either want to or they band behind the guy who's saying so of containing the woman, but not in the way that I'm talking about. Like containing her like a prisoner. Because if she can't do shit, or if she has the ability to do less, then there's less opportunity for me to have emotional harm. So I'm going to protect myself from her. Isn't that weird? Like I want her here, but I need to protect myself from her. That's so strange. Isn't it weird when I put it that way? I find it to be very strange. Yes. Well, I don't think this is maybe your primary language, because that's not how you spell desperate. But yeah, they come out in all different places. He's just not ready. And that's okay. But this is, like a good example. This is a good example. Alex here, I could imagine just considering how he's communicating, I can imagine that he's himself very desperate. He's likely embarrassed, and he's likely asleep. Because this is what we do. People often project. They often project their own shadow onto other people. Right? Because it's there, it has to do something. It just doesn't sit there quietly in the corner and does nothing. It's not how it works. But the thing is that I'm willing to put money on the fact that Alex, if he did have a girl, that he would absolutely follow the bullshit rhetoric that's out there that's saying you need to control the woman. And a lot of guys, because most men are not sovereign, right? They're not. Most men not being sovereign, they relate with that. They're like, yeah, you're right. Because most men can easily be harmed by women. That's little girl. Little girl. Oh, she hurt me so bad. I want to just die. She hurt me so bad. I'm going to drink myself to death. She hurt me so bad. I'm going to cross off her name that was tattooed on my arm. Oh, she hurt me so bad. I cried myself to sleep. Little girl. Little girl. Like, and so of course, yes. So this is like majority of guys, right? Just easily slaughtered. But there's like cute little thing that bounces around, boobies, bouncing, bleeding every month, crying at sad movies and shit, you know? And these guys are a mess. Dudes like Alex are a mess when it comes to dealing with women. So they opt for large control or getting behind someone who advocates for large control. I'm of the thing of free will. You know what? He got caught because he's not a regular here. Alex here, what he was desperate for is getting into or behind the inflaming title. Why can't women be accountable? I'm asking for just more introspection. I'm asking for curiosity, exploration of the concept, just to gain a broader understanding. But what does your average guy want? What your average guy wants to get that, hears that differently. Why the fuck can't women be accountable? Right? That's what the average guy is hearing behind that. They hear the vitriol. And they're waiting for that funnel to come out. And then they're like, yes. And they pour into the chat. These women aren't worth shit. They're all hoes. They're all succubi, ready to take our souls. It's like, hey, if you walk around with your pouch of gold just dangling by a thread on your belt, don't get upset when it gets stolen. And start blaming people. Come on, you're a dumbass. So it makes sense that if most guys are underdeveloped, they've got codependency mommy issues that are unresolved, that they would want to control the situation so they no longer have to feel the pain that they felt growing up. Because if you can't reconcile it, at least I can control the situation so I don't feel it again. And if I could, I would keep her chained to the radiator in the apartment. Here in New York, we have radiators in many of the apartments here. But the thing is that when you're actually sovereign, that's the interesting part. All of the things that you wanted when you were in the position of being needy and grasping for control, they're granted to you. But you no longer care. That's the funny part. When you're not in this stage, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to get pussy. I want her to want me. I want girls to want me. I want to be desired. When you become sovereign, this is what happens. They turn it around, and they do. They want to fuck. They want to suck. They want to give their bodies constantly. But at that point, when you're sovereign, because you are no longer ruled by an authority outside of you, including pussy, you're like, okay. Like that's, I mean, I got a few minutes. I'll let you suck my dick for 5 minutes. But, after that, I'm going to set a timer. So get to work. And that's how it is. And that's not to say like it doesn't feel good, that I don't enjoy these things, but it's not ruling over you anymore. You are sovereign. There's no influences that come through to say, no, you're going to choose this. We're going to pull you by your instincts. We're going to pull you by your lower impulses to make you do and think and say things. That's the powerful difference between being sovereign and not sovereign. The accountability, it just happens like that. Because like that example that I was saying with the male on the floor, like the second she saw that, or a second she passed by the mailbox and saw that the flag was down and it was empty, she was filled with remorse. Filled. And then wondering, how is this going to be dealt with? And also understanding, whatever happens, this is what I deserve, because I'm allowing the accountability to come through. So all that stuff that you're trying to grasp, you're trying to make happen, you're trying to create, when you're motivated by your fears and attachments, they all come to you. I don't mean that they just manifest out of the blue, but I'm saying, like, if you're in a relationship, or if you're married, these things come to you. Or if you're sovereign already, and then you bring a girl into your world, she's just going to become part of this. And if not, she just immediately gets dismissed. It's like immediate, like, no fit. Okay, bye. But I'm hot. I don't care. Like, there's nothing for me. I can appreciate it. Cool. Send me a picture if you want. But that's it. You need to get to this place. You need to get to the place where nothing that the woman has, says, or does, or appears as has an effect on you. Zero. Fucking Cheerio. No effect. And at that point, you are sovereign when it comes to women. You are out of their world. You're out of their frame completely. And now it's like, if she's attracted to you, oh, game over. Because now she's, all her cards, everything, the verbal trickery, the emotional manipulation, the sexual stuff, her appearance, all of it, her time, all of it. The cards that she has just turn to dust. There's nothing that she can play. Nothing. But again, like, at that point, like, if you are not sovereign, you're listening to this and you're like, oh man, yeah, that'd be awesome. Like, I want that power. I'm telling you, once you have it, you don't care that you have it, because you're no longer in that state of, like, measuring up against the woman. Does that make sense? You're, like, in a position of, like, I don't care. I'm neutral about you. Even the girl that I love, I'm neutral about her. It's like a neutral love. I think they call it agape. I think that's the thing. I think it's called agape love. But it's just like, I don't know, it's like a higher or a deeper level of love, like a God has to his children, or a father has to his kids. You're not in, like, a romantic love. The God and the Father's not in romantic love with the children, but very much loves them. But out of that, it's kind of neutral. And this is what allows you to lead them. It allows you to punish them. It allows you to reward them without you getting pulled in any direction whatsoever. You're still, regardless of anything that happens. It's a great power. And the funny thing is, you do nothing. And at that point, that's when you can just start putting in your preferences. You start lining up your rules. You can create structures of punishment and reward. You can create structures of development, or, like, if she has a skill that she needs to learn, or a skill that she already has, but she needs to get better at. If she has a habit that she needs to get rid of. All of these things now become within your control. And not because you're taking it, it's because you created an environment that allows it to happen. And she's just offering, saying, here, you can have this. You can have control over me. So the whole thing of, like, accountable, that comes in with it. Just like the client I was talking about, his girl, she's buying in more and more every day. More and more. Because she's letting go. She's letting go of her mind, opening her heart, opening her vulnerability, releasing her will, and offering all that she is a little bit more every day. And he's like, I can do whatever the fuck I want now. I realize that. So yeah. So make good choices. And also make some purely selfish choices. Like one of my other guys, he requires blowjobs every morning. And for, what is it, 3 years now, I think he said? 3 years, he has a blowjob every single morning. And that, like, it's not like to make the relationship better. It's purely selfish. And that's fine. Like, we need to do that. It's kind of like, when you're training, you have cheat days. Like, if you're really solid about your diet, it's good to have selfish times where you're saying, you know what? I'm giving myself a cheat day. I'm going to eat pizza. I'm going to have, a scoop of ice cream or whatever. Because it's good for morale. The morale of your internal team. If it's all discipline, with most people, I think, shit just dries up. So, I hope you guys learned a little bit more about how to go about dealing with accountability, because it's not about like forcing her to. It's about creating the environment that allows her to naturally be accountable by making the situation such that she feels comfortable, which involves trust, and that she has respect for you. So, like everything, it comes down to you. It comes down to how you carry yourself, how you feel about yourself, how much you respect yourself, how much you are accountable to yourself, how responsible you are to yourself. All of those things matter more than her responsibility or her accountability. 1,000 times more. And this is how you start creating your environments. This is how you start wielding your will on your environment. When you start becoming an impactful force. How can you be impactful if all you care about is sense pleasure and avoidance of emotional pain that's very old? How are you going to do that? There's one way. You could just get a lot of money. And then you can create all the safety and control features that you want, but you'll still not be a man. With that, I'm going to head out of here. If you'd like to hear more about the deeper side of domination and leadership, please follow the links in the chat or go to the description in this video and every other video where you have the link to my Amazon store. Pick up the book, The Codex of the Sovereign Order. And this is a little compendium that you can keep with you on a daily basis. Open it to any verse and read it, and it will give you wisdom for that day. Or you can read it from beginning to end, because that is how it was meant to be. Each chapter builds on the next. There's also How to Be a Dominant Lover. So if you do have a relationship, things are okay, but you want to spice things up. You want to make things more creative. You want to create more polarity, because you can feel the beginnings of that roommate vibe. And that's the thing that kills most relationships, is when polarity goes out the window. So if you want to learn how to inspire that, to bring that spark and that fire back into your bedroom, pick up a copy of that. How to Be a Dominant Lover, also on Amazon. And to see both, you could just type in the search bar, The Dominance Academy, and both of my books will come up. And then soon there will be the female and submissive companion to the Codex, and that's going to be the same thing but for submissives. Deep wisdom from the submissive perspective. Okay, well, thank you for joining me here this evening, and thank you for those of you watching the replay. I appreciate you. There'll be some changes coming soon to the channel, and we're gonna kind of like clean things up, right? Daddy's become a little too relaxed in this environment, so we're gonna clean things up, and you know, I hope that you remain with me during those changes. I appreciate everybody, including Mr. Alex, who wants to sleep. All right. Good. Cool. Well, I'd love to hear your feedback when you're done. Okay, take it easy, everybody, and have yourself a good Saturday evening.